Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the interweb. Today, we're starting something that we've been talking about doing for a very long time, but we never really got around to doing, and I don't really know why we never did. But this is talking about the world, the language, and everything that has to do with the world of Japan. But the easiest way to start out learning about Japan and its culture, its people, video games, anime, manga, whatever, is by learning the language. But one thing I've noticed when it comes to learning the language is that it's always somebody watching YouTube videos that, if they aren't in class, of course, but those videos are all kanji. They're all kanji based. It's very rare that you're gonna find one that isn't kanji based right off the bat. All the ones that talk about hiragana or katakana all make it seem overwhelming and difficult. But what I want to do is make this and this as simple as possible. So think of this as like Japanese for dumbos. Which, that's kind of silly to say, but think of it like this. I want to make this as simplified and as easy as I possibly can. So like I stated, there are several reasons why you may want to learn Japanese. There are video games, anime, manga, or maybe you're just traveling, or maybe you're doing it for a class that you need a credit for, or you're taking logistics or something and you had to learn Japanese or take all these different language classes. Whatever your reason is, there is never a bad reason to want to learn a new language or even just touch up on a language, especially nowadays when anime is so prevalent and video games from Japan are becoming so prevalent in the United States. So let's start out with the very basics of hiragana. Now, hiragana may sound overwhelming because when you see it, there are 46 hiragana, but 25 are repeating characters. It's all the same stuff. For example, if this was English, imagine this, because this is one that has multiple meanings. Think of ha. You see it like this and it's ha, but you see it like this and it becomes ba. But if you see it like this, it becomes pa. It's not hard to comprehend once you start seeing it, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you see it written in English. You'd have to see it written in, I guess, Japanese, but we're not to that point yet, and I don't want to overwhelm you right off the bat. So the first thing we're going to be learning is the very first 5 hiragana characters, which are a, e, u, e, and o. Now, these are probably the easiest to learn, and once you see it, you're like, oh, that's not hard. You'll probably write it a couple times, but you'll forget it if you don't write it a lot. I'll show you how to study these in the very end of the video. With the way these would look, grab your notebook, or if you just want to watch, it's up to you. I would recommend grabbing a notebook so that you can write these as I go along, so that you can study it better. A looks exactly like this. It's a T with a fish. E is basically just 2 lines. U is basically a line and a backwards C. And then E, there's a lot of different ways you can write this. There's 2 ways, they both mean the same, they're both acceptable. You can do the line and then a Z, or you can do the line and then like that. They look the same, I've seen them written in both ways. This way is more like the Okinawa way, and this way is more of like the Tokyo, Kyoto kind of way. But either way, neither of these are technically wrong. You can use both and people would know the meaning of what you're trying to get across. And then there's the letter O. It's basically a, but it comes into a complete instead of lifting it off. So instead of having a fish, you just have a half fish and then a line. And that's a, I, U, E, O. That's the most basic of the hiraganas that you can do. But now let's go back to what I was saying earlier about repeating characters, because I'm about to teach you 10 characters by doing only 5. So here we are. This is ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. But once I teach you those 5, you're automatically going to know 5 more. And those 5 mores are ga, gi, gu, ge, and go. I apologize for my handwriting, it's really bad. But ka looks like this. Ki looks like this. Basically think of ki as a tower. Actually, let me write ki again because I kind of wrote it too tight. That's how ki should look. Ku, it's basically, Pac-Man eating a cookie, pretty much. Think of it like that. Ke is basically E, like E from the last one, except with a line. And then ko is very difficult, okay? Get prepared. It's the equal sign. It's the equal sign. But once you know those, you already know 5 more because of dakuan, which I think I say that wrong. I always say it wrong. But anyways, you know 5 more because here comes ga. That's what ga looks like. Here comes gi with the 2 lines again. Gu, 2 lines again. Ge. Once again, think of it as it with 2 lines. And then there's go, which is the hardest hiragana of them all. So once you've learned these, you automatically know these because they're the same thing, but just with that line. So one more time, the ones that you learned today are a, I, U, E, and O. And then there was ka, ki, ku, ke, and ko. And then of course there's the dokuan forms of it, which turns it into, I wrote that too close, ga, gi, gu, ge, go. My handwriting is not the best, but it's all very, very simple to learn, and it's mainly because of this pen that I'm using, because I'm using a Wacom tablet. So if I wrote them big, you'd be able to see them better, which is probably what I'll do for the next episode of this. So there you have it, the very first 15 hiragana that you learn in your battle to learn Japanese, which is not going to be fun because it's gonna be fantastic. Let me tell you, because I've been learning Japanese since I was in kindergarten, and every time I've learned something new, it's always been like a fun, exciting thing, because it's like, oh, it's a puzzle. I get to learn whatever this new kanji is, because in the mark that I am now, I'm focused more on learning kanji than learning hiragana, katakana, or just the words in general. I'm more of learning kanji and how to like pronounce the words better and formulate the best, most proper structured sentences that I can. But anyways, let me show you how you should be studying these, because I'm not gonna lie to you, all the teachers I had were all really bad. They were really bad, I'm not gonna lie to you. So we're gonna be doing this just as if we were just studying the first 5, because once you see this with the first 5, you can do this with, like, you know, the rest of the hiragana, or really quite possibly anything you'd possibly want to do. So here we go again. There's a, I, U, E, and O. So how are you going to study these when they're written like this? If you take a full notebook page and you just write them like that over and over and over, you will eventually memorize them. It might not be, you know, the quickest, funnest way of studying it, because there are other ways, but to me, these were the best ways when it came to learning these, instead of being overwhelmed and upset when I was doing it like this and spending, you know, every day learning just 15 different hiragana. This was when I was in kindergarten. I was, you know, a happy camper. A very happy camper. Mischievous camper, that is. But it took it from being overwhelming to being back to a way that I can understand. Because the way I was looking at it is, when I was in kindergarten, you know, they're teaching you how to write English, but they were also teaching us Japanese at the same time, which was kind of weird. I don't know why they didn't just save it till first grade. But we were writing A's and B's and C's and D's just like this in columns. So I thought to myself, what if I write the hiragana like that? And then I did that, and within 2 weeks, I knew every single hiragana and every single katakana that there was. So you might be thinking to yourself at this point, how am I going to learn all the hiraganas and katakanas in, you know, a 2-week time period? But again, let's go back to what we said earlier. There are 46 hiragana. About 25 of them are repeating. But out of that 46, you've already learned 15. So what's 46 minus 15? That's 31. You have 31 hiragana left to go until you know every hiragana. Now, I do want to stress, don't just watch this video and then not look back at them and not write them, because you're gonna want to write every single hiragana so that you can remember them, because if you don't, you're just gonna forget them, and that's gonna suck when you try to come back after we get, probably a month into this and we're starting to learn basic Japanese. Once we start learning basic Japanese, you're gonna want to know every single hiragana and every single katakana, because once you do that, basically any word in Japanese you can learn how to say. And something that I want to say real quick, now that we've learned up to this point, is that not everything in Japanese is going to be written using kanji all the time or hiragana all the time. For example, Monday in Japanese is get su yo bi. Now, I'm not going to say these how they would be pronounced in Japanese right in the beginning because I don't want to overwhelm you. But you could see this written in several different ways. You could see it written kind of with like half kanji, half hiragana. It's really kind of like, it's up to whatever region that you're in. Now, this is the way you'd see it if you were somewhere like Okinawa, where knowledge of kanjis are not going to be used as much. You might know the basic kanjis, but you're not really going to know all of it, because think of Okinawa as similar to like, the Appalachian areas of the United States. But if you go somewhere like Tokyo, you might see Getsuyobi, which I don't know if I said this at the beginning because I already forgot. Getsuyobi means Monday. So you might see this written kind of like this in its full hiragana form, which I kind of think is overwhelming in the very beginning, but once you start getting the hang of it, it's not overwhelming at all. And I should have definitely made my brushstroke a little bit smaller, because now it's going to look all like a jangled mess. But it's not that hard once you start getting to it, and this is really bad because of the brushstroke. Oh my god, that looks so bad. But either way, these are all correct. But when you start learning them, it's not going to be exactly like this. You're going to be learning them using hiragana at first before we jump into the kanji ways or the half kanji way. Either way, like I said, you're going to see it written in actually all three ways. Nowadays in Japan, you're going to be seeing a whole lot of English, So theoretically, if you knew how to say all these words written with the Latin alphabet, which is what we use in English, you would honestly be okay. But it would help knowing hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Because again, not everything's going to be written like this. Going back to the Okinawa, you might see Getsuyobi written like that in Okinawa, or you might see it like that in some places, but you will never see it written in English in Okinawa. The reason for that being is, like I said, Okinawa is a little bit more undereducated than the rest of Japan, so they're not going to be putting a focus on, English. Even though it's not technically English because it is the Latin alphabet, a lot of Okinawa and rural Japan are just going to be using, this form for their words. Some parts won't be using any form of kanji at all. They'll just be using hiragana and katakana, which again works best for you, because one thing I've noticed is when a lot of people go to Japan as English teachers, they end up in rural Japan. And when you're in rural Japan, you don't have to worry about kanji like this. You don't have to worry about half kanji. You just really got to worry about hiragana and katakana. And another way that I can relate this kind of to the way you might be recognizing it in America is when it comes to Spanish. All Spanish is different. When you're in Mexican Spanish, you're going to be hearing a mixture of Spanish and Native American words. For example, in the Mexican Spanish I grew up with, when instead of saying turkey, I think in regular Spanish it's like turquilla or something. I don't know. But in the Mexican Spanish, it's guajolote. So it's just like kind of like that, I guess. It's kind of weird, kind of not, because a lot of native Japan or rural Japan still relies on a lot of the older words and a lot of the older sayings. A couple years ago, on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3, there was a video game called Ryugakutoku Ishin, which featured a lot of the Japanese that's only used in rural Japan. So they had to put a dictionary in the game itself, so the people who were playing that game in, Tokyo, Kyoto, or wherever would be able to understand what was going on. Because if you're in Tokyo, you're not going to use those rural words. Just the same in the United States. If you're in New York, or where I live, you're probably not going to be hearing much of the country slang that you would hear in Appalachia or Alabama or Louisiana or someplace like that. There's been a lot of times where I've personally have been live streaming, and then I've heard words that I don't even recognize and things I don't even recognize. Like, for example, holler. I didn't know what that was for a long time. I thought that was just yelling, but it's not. Apparently, a holler is like a basement in a house. So if you have a house, down here would be the holler. I did not know that until like a week ago when I Googled it. But yeah, basically for this series, we're going to be learning Japanese together, but in a very, very, very simplified, easy way. This is a way that even IGN would rate it 10 out of 10. But you know what? The simplicity is what matters most. You'll learn it best and feel most confident learning it this way than if you learn it through most of the other places I've seen on YouTube, because they're all starting you out with kanji. Even when they're showing you just basic words that are used in Japanese, they're going to show you it written in kanji. And when I think you're learning it, I do not think it's, something you should really be forced to learn right off the bat or see right off the bat, because that is going to discourage you and it's going to make you feel like, like this is just going to be too hard for you. It's going to overwhelm you. But when you're learning it in the very simple ways and, like the way I'm doing it, making a lot of connections to the United States, video games, anime, etc., you will definitely be able to catch on in a much happier, much easier, much more, I guess, simplistic way. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to be making this its own playlist outside of my regular videos, so that if you come in the future, you can just see it there and you're like, hey, I know this. I can get this. You got this, man. You got this. I'm going to try to be doing this at least once every 2 days. But I'm not sure I'm going to be able to keep that schedule. That might end up becoming an everyday single thing. Because it's not like this is going to take, a long time to do every day. This is going to be like 10, 15 minutes telling you how to write these and then the editing and that. So I'm going to try to do this as often as possible so that you do not lose your source of learning Japanese. So with that being said, my name's Alejandro. I hope you've had a good day up to this point, and I hope you continue to have a good day. And with that being said, I will see you in the next video.